Thank you everyone for coming because you know, I'm a student and not a teacher. So that when you show up for a student and not a teacher, they think, oh, these are my friends. So I want to explain a little something before I start my talk. Can everyone hear me? I hope. Um uh Yesterday I have a friend from childhood that I'm not super close to anymore as things go. It's been so long since childhood and we don't keep in touch. And my friend, their son took their life, and I was part of a group text, and I felt so bad because it's just nothing worse, and I didn't know how to process it immediately because I want to help my friend, but I think that's probably most likely she's in kind of almost an unreachable place. Fortunately, my friend's a devout Christian, so I think that will help her. But I made her a little card. I don't know. It'll stay. Okay. I made my friend a card and I used a quote from Psalms, very short because I thought it wouldn't be respectful to say much really right now. I just wanted her to know I was thinking of her. And so anyway, that's a true charnel ground. Anyway, so I wrote my talk and I repeat myself a lot. So maybe I won't read all this and make you guys have to use your own practice to sit through a long talk. But I wrote it down, and you're part of my talk because you're here and you're part of my life, and so you're in this talk. So I'm going to read it, but sometimes I won't. I hope at least, because I'm pretty shy, so I end up doing that every time. I thought by now I would change into someone unrecognizable, but turns out no. Turns out no. But anyway, I hope that my shyness inspires other shy people to sit up here. So some of you know, most of you, I think, that Rinpoche is in Washington. And I'm giving what I consider an introductory talk about the charnel ground. And I'm going to just talk in a kind of a basic way because that's where I'm at. And the charnel ground is a sacred place where everything we fear or cling to falls away, including our delusions and stories about who we think we are. And it's in this place where we can no longer pretend. And yet, we do not go to the charnel ground alone. We carry with us the lamp of bodhicitta, the courageous heart that vows to awaken, not just for ourselves, but for all beings. That's a tall order. And I recognize that because I see that clearly. But bodhicitta is what transforms the charnel ground from a place of fear into a place of liberation. With bodhicitta, the charnel ground becomes the birthplace of wisdom, the cradle of limitless compassion. And when we step into the charnel ground with bodhicitta in our heart, sorrow becomes the ground of love. Every day I pray that my words help and that I be a good Dharma student, not a great master or something like that. Those two things. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out right from the get-go. So this talk was inspired by the historical Machik Labdran, who was a great practitioner from the 11th century, and we just read a prayer to her, who practiced a practice called Chu. Some of you know that word, some not, but no worry. We're practicing whether we know the word or not. And she devised practices where one offers one's body symbolically to demons and spirits. And this offering symbolizes giving up anger, and jealousy, and fear and control. So Machik took the practice for pacifying or purification. My notes are a little unclear for even myself, but she was influenced by another teacher, and I have to mention their names because in our lineage, we always give the credit to the ones that are a part of us. And their name is Padampa Sangye. But she took it a little further than him in the sense that she invited these very these difficulties, she invited them. And instead of calling them difficulties or emotions or things like that, she called them demons. So, so that was a historical person that this talk was inspired by. But I also was inspired by my root teacher, Lama Jinpa, who I refer to as Rinpoche throughout this talk, and another amazing teacher called Ringu Tuku Rinpoche, Dilgo Rinpoche, Kensei Rinpoche, and Shantideva. And with my teacher Rinpoche, I meet with him. A lot of you, many of you here do as well. So some might not know that word, but darshan is like when you have a meeting with the teacher, we call it a darshan. So he explained to me that if I'm practicing correctly, I should say we, because you're all beside me, that unacknowledged aspects of ourselves will come to the surface. And when this happens, it can feel really painful, even impossible. And I've really relied on many of you here when that happens. But he says, if we stick with it, we'll have courage. That it's like kind of building a muscle. By sticking with it, we built this muscle. So with this approach, the teacher-student commitment becomes greater. And then after time goes on, if you stick with it, it becomes like the path isn't really an optional path. It's your path. So over the years, I've spent many days with Rinpoche, but not just with him. I've spent many days with all of you. And recently in a talk, he emphasized with great passion that part of our responsibility is to see each of ourselves, each of you, like we see him, like like a Buddha, like somebody worthy of respect, someone we can learn from. So thank you for your kindness and patience spending time with me. So during my experience, I probably lost a few friends because I've been so ignorant, but some of you are still with me, which is quite amazing. That's really true. But I learned from Rinpoche that when uncomfortable feelings arise, I need to stay, not run. I would tell myself I should go for the benefit of everyone. Really, I would say that to myself and really mean it and feel it. But then he said, no, you stay, or if you leave, at least come back. So everyone here, if you're breathing, aging, loving, losing, is walking this path with me. Rinpoche described the charnel ground as a sacred place where delusions go to die. It's not just a physical place, a cemetery where corpses decay under an open sky. It's a living metaphor for the collapse of our delusions. Some of you might know this about me, but some not. But in 2017, I traveled with 2 Sangha friends to receive a Chö empowerment from a teacher named Lama Wangdu, and I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't qualified to be there in any way, and that there I was. And I remember very little of the actual empowerment, except that at the end, it was many Tibetan people, actually, very few Westerners. And at the end, when I approached Lama Wangdu with a kata, he, without warning, hit me on the back and said very loudly, "Hey," he said that. And I was so shocked. And then he had one of his attendants give me this little woven black scorpion. I didn't even know it was a scorpion. Someone told me that, with a cord. And something shifted in me in that day. But I'd like to tell you that I saw rainbows in the sky and everybody looked like a bright light, but no, it was not like that. Instead, I felt uneasy and my identity was shaken. And I feel now, looking back, that my eyes opened slightly, if only a crack. At that time, and even now sometimes, I suffered from agoraphobia. And I worked very hard to hide this problem, 24/7. I hid it by sitting back there. I hid it by making sure I could get out of here before I'd have to shake people's hands and have a panic attack. But others with eyes to see and notice people in the back row would say, "Something's wrong for Patty. I don't know what, but she leaves early. She comes late." And so the amazing thing was, out of great compassion, Rinpoche allowed me to hang out with him and help him. And honestly, when he asked me to, I didn't want to because it meant that I couldn't stay in the back row anymore. And he used this very fear that I was ashamed of to open me up. He pushed me to do things like right now, sit here in front of all of you. And one time he told me, I have made a charnel ground just for you, custom. And you know what? Sometimes he'll say that about other students because I'm no different than any of you. He calls it the bespoke model, like for each one of us. But his words took my breath away. And I'm like, I didn't say yes to him. I didn't say, yes, I'll help you. I said, I'll think about it. But then a week went by and then I said yes, because he said someone would help me. That person's no longer here, but they did help me. But honestly, at the time, I would rather visualize myself chopped into 1,000 pieces and feeding them to a horrible 3-headed monster than to be honest about my high anxiety, jealousy, grief, shame, and ignorance. But over time, I could hide less and less until eventually I was in a corner of my own making, and I had to be honest. And the image I had of myself was dismantled. I didn't know what to do. I asked him, how should I deal with this feeling? Or how should I deal with that feeling? Or that person, that difficult person? But he wouldn't let up. And a despair took hold until one day he told me that I should offer all these shameful, difficult memories. I should offer them all. And I should do this right now. And I should begin to do this. My defenses were stripped away, completely vulnerable in this charnel ground of my own making, with my teacher and my friends, and all the external markers, my reputation, my status, trying to look like a good person, not being a good person, wide open. And I'd sit with him and with others in long meetings. Some of you know about those meetings. In long meetings that seemed to have no end, and my anxiety utterly exposed. And sometimes I'd shut my eyes, trying to disassociate or trying to disappear. And I'd open them, and there he was looking at me. And he'd smile and he'd say, now I'm having a good day. Oh my gosh. If anyone knows that saying, now I'm having a good day, you know it's a hard day. And he brought me to this difficult place where I could not hide. I had to look squarely at it all. I don't want to speak too much. I'm speaking past tense, but honestly, I'm in the middle of it all right now. I'm right here with all of you dealing with all this stuff. And I'm here. I just am speaking that way because I don't know how to write it any other way. But beneath the image that I had meticulously built up, that was all there out there. And when I complained, which I still have on occasion when I forget, about present day others or long ago others, Rinpoche would challenge my projections. He'd say, it's time to grow up. He might even shout it at me. It's time to grow up. Now is the time to grow up. And I couldn't blame anyone anymore. My old ways weren't going to work anymore. And he instructed me to use these strong emotions to look for the one experiencing them. And so I'm trying to practice this way. I'm trying my best to look for the one experiencing all of this. I have many opportunities to practice. And sometimes I want to stay home, but in the end, I have to drop that. There's nothing to do but keep showing up. Gradually, I've learned to trust Rinpoche with my life. And in a way, I trust me too. I never was able to trust anyone before, not really. And really, the truth is, it starts with trusting myself. I have seen since I've begun this path little glimpses, and I call them glimpses because it's not stable, but glimpses of feeling truly alive, truly seeing others as beautiful, like Rinpoche sees them. I've seen what he calls bodhicitta, just glimpses, real love, love that does not belong to me, love that belongs to everyone. Before Rinpoche, I split the world into two camps, what helps me and what threatens me. And from that split, I saw that my life was a vacillation between grasping at what feels good and pushing away what feels bad. And, Rinpoche says all the time, he says, this is a push-pull world that we all are in. What feels good, just craving what feels bad. Oh, gosh, every conflict, every hope, every fear. And through all this, my body has begun to grow old. I'm sitting cross-legged, not because I'm a big fancy yogi. I'm sitting cross-legged because I sit like this so much that my hips hurt if I sit other ways. And my feet are so short that I can't reach the ground. And that's the truth. I've gotten old. My bones hurt now. And my memory, as my friends who hang out with me for any stretch of time know, I forget stuff constantly. I rely on my friends for my keys, just for all sorts of things. Like I forget. It worries me. And my beauty is fading. My lines cross my face. My image, my roles, I'm a mother, but my kids are grown. They need me, but not the way they used to. I'm a wife, a worker, a helper, all these things. I'm the oldest worker at my school. And beneath all that, Rinpoche says that there's nothing I can call me. Just breath, coming and going, just moments arising and passing, just awareness wide and open with no center. So who am I without all these roles? And the answer cannot be found in words. It's in what remains when the roles change or disappear. I get so scared when that happens. It's very hard. Ringu Tulku Rinpoche writes, the charnel ground is not a punishment. It's mercy. It shows you the truth faster than comfort ever will. Lama Jinpa Rinpoche reminds me when I feel especially insecure, he says, you belong. But what he's really saying is we all belong. He means the sun shines down on everyone, and there's room at the table for us all. This is the wisdom of Chu. Chu invites us to embody this, and it takes courage. It cannot be found by running from pain, and it cannot be found by building a more acceptable container. Instead, by standing, sometimes trembling, right in the middle of it all, on the charnel ground of our own lives, we can glimpse, even if fleetingly, there is no I to defend, and there's no other to fear. There's only this living moment breathing itself through us. Are you guys with me? How long have I talked here? Talked a lot, huh? I'll talk a little more and then I'll stop because I don't want to think that I'm the only one with something to say. So I'll say a little bit more, then I'll pause. So this particular passage, Rinpoche recently was talking to myself, and Jen was there actually. Maybe Connor, you were too, I'm not sure. But he was talking about, like how to be a true benefit. And like for example, yesterday, we talk about impermanence in our tradition all the time. We talk about impermanence all the time. And, but then like my friend whose son took his life, this should be so cold to say such a thing. That's a theory that would not just be the right thing to say at all. And this is where the real practice begins, actually. So just have to really consider our words before we say them out loud. We might mean well, but when something's that difficult, there's probably not a whole lot to say other than, I'm so sorry that happened. So on a, not such a difficult note, but just more mundane, like if someone has a harsh word for me, or I don't want to say that really. Well, that's a real opportunity, actually. There's a lot of truth in what they said, probably, but it also brings up this other thing that is not brought up, not as vivid. It's not as vivid in just regular life to look for the I that has a strong sense of identity. But if somebody says something kind of harsh, you're like, there, if I can use that, not only to change in just a relative way, but also to practice in a genuine way, like to look for the I that is feeling that, and the feeling itself, and all that goes with that. I'm not qualified to speak to that too much. I'm just mentioning that in relation to this talk. But I do notice also that I'm not always able to practice the way I wish. Sometimes it might take me a full day. Sometimes I get surprised and I can on the spot, not on the spot usually, but maybe 15 minutes later. My body knows though. My body reacts. My stomach, it's so tight. My jaw gets so tight. My heart, I notice my heart is beating quickly. And my mind goes to, how do I fix this? How do I get back to normal? How do I make this stop? This is the charnel ground. We don't really know where we are in our practice until this happens. We imagine, I imagine I'm more peaceful, and then no, that's not the case. Or I think I'm unattached, and then something I care about goes away, and I'm more attached than anyone in the room. When it's happening, it's tempting to shame myself. I should be stronger. I shouldn't feel like this. I'm not such a great practitioner. I'm a bad practitioner. No, that's not it. The experience is a doorway because the racing mind, the tight stomach, the tears are showing me the exact spots where attachment and aversion live. And this is where the delusion has power. So it's a revelation, not a punishment. In this rawness, there's a choice. I can run, numb it, deny it, blame others, or I can stay, feel it, breathe it, let it break me open, because pain is not holy, but the truth is. When you stay present in the charnel ground, when you resist the urge to escape, something starts to shift. The pain doesn't magically disappear, but the panic maybe does. And the story slows down and the sharp edges of me and you begin to blur. And I realize that the hurt, the grief is not proof of failure. It's proof of connection. It's the human heart. Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche says, until we can train the mind to stay present with suffering, practice will not ripen. And this is why the charnel ground is sacred. There's no shortcut. There's no special mantra to skip the hard parts. There's only this: stay, feel, drop the rock again and again, until staying becomes natural, until compassion becomes spontaneous, until wisdom shines through even the darkest of nights. This is the real work. This is the real practice. This is where life with its messiness and pain becomes the ground of awakening. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. I have more, but I think I'd like to take a moment here, see if there's any comment or question. And if not, I'll keep going. I noticed when I did this, it was a lot louder. I hope this is okay the other way. I just, if there's not, don't feel pressured. I'll keep going. I'm just noticing who's here. It's good friends. Okay.
Hi, Patty. Thanks so much for your talk.
You're welcome.
It's so relatable. I was wondering though, like, I hear like it makes a lot of sense to me in my own experience, how you're talking about the charnel ground. I'm kind of wondering if there's traditional beings that live in the charnel ground that you know about.
Well, that's another talk. And I think I'm not qualified to speak to that exactly, even though I practice in a certain way. I'm just a beginner. And but I would love a talk like that from our teacher, wouldn't you?
Would be really interesting.
Yes. I've asked him for that actually. I hope he'll do that. I'll tell him I'm not the only one.
Thanks, Patty.
Yeah. He'll.
Thanks, Patty. I really appreciate the talk. I was wondering, and you answered the question already, how do we identify the everyday sort of charnel ground and what to do then once we identify it, and you answered that as well. I was just kind of curious though, if you could the being with it, so to speak. You talked like we can try to run away, we can try to, escape or numb it or whatever, but maybe like just practical, like everyday sort of like, okay, you notice the tightness, you notice the crazy mind, you notice all of the heart thumping, right? Okay, so there it is. Okay, how do you stay?
I see. For me, okay, so I sometimes I do things that are kind of simple, like mantra. And then I also I call friends, talk me off the cliff. If it's really bad, I make an extra darshan. And because if it's really difficult, I need help. Sometimes I get surprised that it passes. Sometimes I need to make an apology and then it passes. So I don't think there's one answer, but the thing I try to do every time now is really look for it, the emotion itself, even the sensation in the body, like really look, like deeply look. It's not, sometimes in this looking, it dissolves. That doesn't mean I don't owe an apology because, I'm a very reactive person. But it's part of my practice to do that. I promised Rinpoche I will do this because I had this notion that I was even doing him a favor if I took off when I feel that bad. I really thought because my feelings are pretty close to the surface and I don't want that, and I thought it's a burden for me to be there, but it's okay to take a break. I think as long as you come back is the main thing. I don't know if I've answered your question, but there's more than one thing I do. I hope that helps.
I love your talk. And I do have a question, and it's a lot like what's already been asked, but I guess I'm asking you to kind of keep at it for my sake. But how do you make friends with this shadow, with these shadows? Do you visualize them? Do you talk to them? How do you not run from those things?
It's only, I'm a very slow learner. So when I see that arising in me, what's helped me, I don't really see him as much as experience it in my body. And I make myself remember Rinpoche, because he knows me. He knows me. And his face, his eyes, it helps me. Then not just that, I realize, how am I going to help others who are similar to me if I don't work this out, in a real honest way? Like, if I'm not able to integrate that in my own body, how will I benefit anyone? How will I, without having that top down, well, it must be hard for you kind of attitude, instead of I'm with you attitude. That helps me too. This is, I wish I could give more wise answers. That's what I do.
And do you see I'm sorry, I'm kind of like, but do you see a connection between those? You're talking about very disowned parts of oneself. But also when we engage with others, those feelings arise, and also other people are experiencing them. So it's a big mix, big mess sometimes. Does it help I mean, kind of with the bodhicitta, or somehow kind of like
They sure,
in engaging others?
well, I think so, because I understand people in a way that I was 20 years ago, I didn't know myself, and I didn't like what I saw when I began to know myself. I didn't know, I just didn't know. And now I'm just beginning to know, and then I, it's hardly, it's come to where when I experience those difficulties, I'm like, because I use the things I've learned, I'm like, may I experience this, may I experience this for others. May I, and that helps, that's the biggest help. May I experience this for others. Somehow that transforms it. May I experience, something like jealousy. Who wants to say they're jealous? May I experience this for all, because it's so painful. And I'm like, yeah, bring it on. May I experience this? That's what I'm missing. I need, that's the biggest help there. And actually, Rinpoche is the biggest help, because he's helped me so much. But then I see that I'm one of many. That's another thing. I'm not. Okay, so that's a little bit more time. Do you guys want me to do a little bit more here? I got a little more I could say.
Can I ask
Yes.
you a
Oh,
question?
sure.
So when the nuns were here and they did
Oh, yes.
practice, it was actually, my experience is very so small with that, but it was a very peaceful practice that had a strong energy in it. And so I guess I just sort of wonder, where do you find the peace in this? I mean, and I know you fairly well, so it sort of feels like we've got a little ice cube sitting on this, but I don't think that's what it is. I think there's something more. I think it's just not pain. I think there's something else that you get from this, or that you see within this, that's beneficial. And so maybe for me, it's hard to hear that in your words today, but is there a way that you can maybe, I mean, true practice isn't just pain, right? It's not just dark pain, like we would say, sort of colloquially depressing. It's not actually that, is it?
Actually, it's about identity. It's about using what's difficult to explore identity about who you think you are. And it can be things that we typically would, in relative way, think of as depressing, but they're transformed in this looking, like, because in just regular life, when things are on the surface, where you're maybe not experiencing a very strong aversion or deep anger or things like that, the energy behind that is very strong when these very strong emotions arise. It's not meant to be depressing. It's meant to be that the energy of the emotions themselves are transformed by this practice of looking at them and inviting them. It's not meant to be where you're depressed or think poorly of yourself. It's meant to uncover what you hadn't acknowledged before and integrating it into yourself. And because there's disowned parts, because in my case, I just want to see myself like a good person. I think most everyone does. But then I had to, as time went on, Rinpoche set up dynamics where I'd be having to face that isn't always the case. That there's qualities in me that I hadn't even recognized, or, because in regular life, we arrange our lives to be around people that have similar interests, similar likes, similar worldview. But in here, it's like he says, potatoes in a barrel, mixing us all together to rub up against each other, not to be depressing, but to be waking us up. So it is, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wouldn't want anyone to leave here to think that it's a depressing practice. It's a bright, vibrant practice that everything's included. That's I am pretty sad today. I run pretty sad. I'm a sad practitioner. If anyone knows me, I get that in the background all the time. And so that maybe makes it, maybe makes people receive it in a way that is like how you're receiving it. I'm not sure.
Where do you get the energy to do this?
I get the energy to do this because, well, some people only know me here, but if you were with me in my job at a school, I have 117 students. And I have a family of 80 people because my family's really big and very dysfunctional. I think I get this because I love a lot of people. And I care. I care. And I've been helped. I used to live in a car for a year. I've been helped. I grew up in the back of the gas station. That's one of my stories, but I did. And I didn't even know I was poor. But all those things formed me to be sitting right here. And I have a lot of energy, but I am getting old and have less than I used to. I feel a sense of urgency, actually. A sense of urgency to use this time because it's such a beautiful time. With you, Connor, you've helped me a lot, Connor. So many things I haven't, I don't take anything for granted. Mhm. So, you know, what Connor brought up, I think is important. So maybe the most important thing, because I don't want anyone to get depressed or misunderstand Chö, especially if you want to find out more about it. I really hope that Rinpoche will teach us. So, I always like to qualify my talks like that, not to be humble, but to be truthful. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. And so the next part of my talk is, it's kind of continuing. A lot of this is repeating itself, so that's why. But there's a lot of different ways to say the same thing. And I'll just keep going. And I wrote here, the first instinct when pain hits is to run. We run outward. And then that is a metaphor for blaming others. And or we run inward. And that's kind of like where I run often, like the depression piece that you might hear in my voice at times. But in the charnel ground, those strategies don't work because there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. There's only reality staring back at you raw, unfiltered. Rinpoche once told me during a darshan, the charnel ground is a place of no undoing, no going back. And he used the example, like if you're married to somebody and they say, I want a divorce. I don't love you anymore. You can't go back. You can't pretend that didn't happen. That's the threshold. It feels like a death, like the ground giving way under your feet, but it's actually the beginning of something much deeper. Courage in the Dharma doesn't mean never feeling fear. It means staying even when every fiber of your being wants to flee. It means breathing through the panic. It means watching the mind scramble for escape routes and choosing to stay anyway. So my talk is colored by my personality. So I just really hope everybody uses their own filter. And I'm concerned. I don't want people to leave and be misunderstanding this beautiful practice. But anyway, the charnel ground tests everything you think you know about yourself. Are you willing to feel your grief without closing your heart? Are you willing to face your shame without collapsing into self-hatred? Are you willing to meet your anger without being consumed by it? These are not academic questions. They are gut level, body level, life level questions, and they don't have these tidy, easy answers. They are lived moment by moment. I like this teacher. I didn't know him before this talk that much, but his name is Ringu Tulku Rinpoche, and he writes, the practice doesn't fail when you feel fear or pain. The practice fails when you refuse to meet it. Fear isn't the problem. Pain isn't the problem. Avoidance is the problem. Denial is the problem. Because every time you turn away from the charnel ground, you strengthen the delusion of separation. You reinforce the lie that says, I'm separate from suffering. I can protect myself from life. In true practice, the courage to stay is made literal. You visualize yourself offering your own body to the demons and spirits of the charnel ground, the very ones you fear. You offer your pride, your attachments, your narratives, and you say, take all of it. I have nothing to defend. It's liberating because once you realize you have nothing to lose, nothing solid to defend, you become unshakable, not because you are invulnerable, but because you are open and you're no longer at war with life. This is why the charnel ground is not a place of death. It's a place of rebirth. The false self dies, the selfless self emerges, not in triumph, but in humility and wonder. When you stay in the charnel ground, you discover something astonishing. The thing you were running from was never your enemy. The thing you were running from was your teacher. It was the gateway. It was the beginning. So now it's 5 to 12. Maybe I'd move ahead and the last part, I don't want to read it anymore because I think I've said plenty, but it just talks about lineage and it just talks about how we're just here to help each other. And I used to think by practicing that people sitting real still and appearing to be with a high level of concentration and also having meditated upon vipassana and understanding how things exist, phenomena and self, just that almost we're beyond feelings, but it's just the way feelings are experienced is different. I mean, I've had Rinpoche cry with me, but then he goes on and he's not there. He keeps moving. He's just there to help. So I not able to answer some of these very important questions, and I hope from my talk, instead of just taking it literal value, that you'll take them to Rinpoche and he can help you. He most likely say, Patty was a little off with that or very off, and then let me know so that I can learn too. So, all right. So now I'll have a look at questions and if there is a comment and then.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, I think Roberta has a question online.
Okay.
Can we?
Hi, friend. So I have a question. I can really relate to some of the things that you've been saying, and in particular because it feels all the more, I guess I would use the word lonely as the feeling because I'm so far away. And so you talk about methods to help yourself, but sometimes I find myself either tricking myself, thinking I'm looking at some of these things you're talking about, and oh yes, I'm starting to deal with that or look at that. And then sometimes I realize you're just fooling yourself even more. And so how would you suggest people like me who are so far away? I mean, there are Buddhists here in Portugal, but my Portuguese is still not that great. So it's hard to deal with something like this in the moment. So meditation, malas, all of those things are great, but what other kind of support which can you maybe think of that might help me in the future when some of these things come up?
Well, Bert, it's so nice to hear your voice because it makes me feel you're not so far away, because it's amazing that we can talk like this in real time. But that's tough, Roberta, not to have a community that understands what you're trying to do, or how you're trying to work with these difficult things. I think people don't necessarily have to be Buddhist to be of great support and help to us. Like in your community, being Portuguese, it's most likely it's a more Catholic kind of community, I would imagine. Is this so?
Yes. Well, they're by definition Catholics, but there's a lot of non-practicing Catholics.
Long time ago, I lived in Texas, and I felt out in the country. I was,
And
I-
you were.
I was like, I felt quite lonely. I may be similar to how you felt. I didn't know what to do with myself. But you know what? I went to an exercise class. I think don't give up, because my friend turned out to be such a dear friend, was not a Buddhist, but certainly a great support. We need connection, I think. And then, of course, Roberta, I would like to help you make a darshan with Rinpoche, but friendship has really helped me more than anything, probably beyond the teachings themselves. I just mean to just continue to do your hobbies and the things that you love, and maybe you'll run into somebody, a soulmate, a good friend, that not necessarily Buddhist, but a good-hearted person to share your life with where you currently live. And then I just wanted to mention that in truth practice, there is historically, they would go off like you have as wandering chukpas, they call them, and on their own. And in your case, you do have a teacher. That's unbreakable. Lamla will always be your teacher, Roberta, and you need to check in with him more often, I think, because it's harder when you're away from everything like you are. And I feel when I hear you, I want to be a support to you too. I hope that we can make that happen more.
Yeah, thanks so much. And if I may too, I posted here because you're mentioning Ringo Tuklo, and he gives an annual summer camp here in Portugal. So
Yeah.
it's fantastic. So I put the links, and if anybody's going to be in Europe, you can come, but it's also available online.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you. Great teaching.
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
I just had one quick comment. This is Dan. Patty, I just wanted to thank you for always being so honest and courageous with your talks. It really, as someone who is shy myself, it really inspires me. So I just want to thank you.
Well, there's a benefit to being shy, I think, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Vince. That's so kind.
So I would have to say that for being such a shy person, you've done an excellent job of opening yourselves up to everybody here and all facing your fears. You've had a lot of practice, it's clear, doing that. And I identify with you in certain ways, and I think your talk will make me think twice about some of my own behavior as well, and take the opportunity to use those incidents or those feelings or whatever as a practice and not just something to run away from, like you're saying, So I've heard you, and I suspect a whole lot of other people have as well,
Thank
You've done
you.
a good job.
Aw.
Any others? No. Okay, so we'll go on to dedication. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may quickly attain a state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jeweled bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish. May the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losang, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones, merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators, please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of objectless compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages, Losandapa, I make request at the holy feet. Yeah, we've got a couple announcements. So we've got Kala Chakra at 2:30, but right before Kala Chakra is going, I'm seeing some head shake. We're not until May. Okay, so no kirtan, but Kala Chakra at 2:30, and Jen is going to lead Kala Chakra. Yeah. So please join us. It'll be online and in person. Again, just the fundraising pitch that we all know I'm not very good at, but we really appreciate everyone being here and everyone's participation in cleaning and cooking and maintenance and mowing the lawn. All adds up, but we do need some actual dollar bills to make those things happen. So we appreciate all of your membership and coins and everything that goes in the box very much, because that's what makes us have a place that we can do these things in. Oh yeah, Kongshur Rinpoche. Yeah, so he's coming in 2 weeks, the 16th, 17th, and 18th of May. He's got some great empowerments that he's going to give, some good talks, and he's just a brilliant teacher. So we hope you can all come here. I think there's going to be some online signups. I don't know. We're still sort of working that out, I guess. Monday. Okay, so on Monday, look for more information. Definitely look in the Roar for scheduling and sign up stuff. And then we have Lama Jinpa's birthday coming up in 2 months. So keep that on track with Tara mantras that we're collecting. Send those into Deb Dietz for accumulation and tabulation. Last I heard, we were just over 100,000, but those were the only ones that were actually recorded. So I know a lot of us hold them until the last minute. So maybe we can try not to hold them until the last minute. It's a lot of work for Deb. Yes, the marbles are still back in the Tara shrine. You take from the right and put them in the left, from the basket to the cylinder. And I can tell you right now that the last time I counted them, when they're about a little bit lower than this, it was like 60,000. So, you know, that thing holds a lot. So keep them up. We really appreciate that. 100. So you got to do 108 to get the 100. So it's a full mala. Each marble is a full mala. Tantra class is the first and third Thursday of the month. So this week, no Tantra class, because it was every other, and now it's just first and third. What else? I think that's it.
One quick comment.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just wanted to remind everyone that there's online Tara practice tonight at 6 p.m.
Great. Yes. With Dirk and you.
Yep.
And then we've got a garden party cleaning party May 3rd. What time? 3:30. And I think you promised us food, right? Pizza. All right. And then is there a garden party? May 10th, 9 a.m. Totally awesome garden party. The flowers are incredible. Take your Allegra. All right. Thanks for coming, and thanks for the wonderful talk, Patty.
Omo araya pazayana indi Om araya pazana indi Omo